had a look on eBay to see what faulty items I could pick for today's video, and these ones I just couldn't resist. As you can see, they are big items. The idea is to see if we can fix these consoles and sell them for a profit. Last week we had a very good week, and I'm hoping I can replicate that profit today. I paid £150 for both of these faulty items, so let's get them open and see what we've got today. It says Xbox Series S, however, it's actually an Xbox One S. Condition wise, not fantastic, but we will inspect it a little bit more in a second. This one is interesting. And after all of that, here we have an Xbox Series S, which is one of the newer generation consoles for an Xbox. I've just realised, right, this has a sticker on and it says Microsoft Xbox Series S Prototype 1883. Do we have a prototype Xbox Series S? Before I get too excited, the first Xbox came with a power lead and a HDMI cable, which is really, really cool. Let's take a look at the condition of this one. It doesn't look to be that great, if I'm honest. Turn down the ISO on the camera to make sure you guys get a good look. You can see that we've got quite a lot of dirt around the fan area itself. I don't know if it has been opened or not. Potentially. We'll have a look at that in a second. But you can see as well that we've got some marks on this side of the console. Also, I've seen a lot worse. Like, it's not in horrendous condition. I paid £50 for this. And the listing states on this one specifically that we have a bad image to the TV. They said it might be a HDMI port, but they're not too sure. So that's the fault with the Xbox One S. The fault with the Xbox Series S is exactly the same. There is no output display to a TV. However, if we look at the HDMI port on this one as well, it also looks damaged. So what we could potentially have here is two Xboxes that don't have an image to the TV that just require a HDMI port. But as we know with this channel, that is not always the case. It's not always as easy as that. Let's go ahead and start with the Xbox One S and give it a quick test. I've plugged in power. I'm not going to plug in HDMI to this, again, because you can clearly see here that there is an issue. But I do just want to make sure that the console turns on. Okay, so we do get the light and you can see the dirt around this area here. So this console will actually need quite a decent clean. I guess, moment of truth, did we get a game? No, they didn't give us a game. There's a lot of dust floating around, I can tell you that though. So as we can see, because this clearly actually turns on, let's take it apart and see if we can resolve the issue with the HDMI port. The listing also states that this console is a 1 terabyte, so it'll be interesting to check over that and make sure they weren't telling any fibs. Okay, let's have a look. As you see, extremely dusty all over the shop. It's only a 500 gig hard drive. If I go ahead and pull up the listing for this, you can see that it states Xbox One S Slim 1 terabyte, sold for £50. And just to show you as well, you can see that the serial number itself ends in 62948. And if I show you the serial number on this one, the right way around, so it's easy to read, 62948. So that is definitely this console. So I've paid 50 quid for a 500 gigabyte hard drive. Now, as long as I can fix this with just a HDMI port change, we should still be looking at a profit roughly, but our profit margin is now a lot less. The difference between a 500 gigabyte and a 1 terabyte hard drive isn't too much in terms of costing if you were to go and buy a drive from Amazon, say. However, when you're selling a console, that 500 gig and 1 terabyte difference makes up quite a bit of profit. So that's a bit of a loss, if I'm 100% honest with you. I will contact the seller and see if they can maybe offer me a partial refund, because clearly in the title it stated 1 terabyte instead of the 500 gig. But let's continue taking this apart. I'm not too sure how long this board would have lasted if it wasn't for the HDMI port kicking out, because look at all that dust down the 12 volt line as well. And I'm assuming the APU, which is here, was really struggling to breathe. There's not much thermal paste on that. We'll give everything a nice clean though and make sure it's spanking new. Let's go ahead and inspect the HDMI port. You can see that the pins at the bottom are a little bit exposed and the clasp in the middle here has definitely gone. Top side, I think, is where we're having our issue, where there's not going to be a great connection on the pins, and therefore would probably work if you give it a little bit of a wiggle. But again, it's just not worth me putting a cable in to potentially damage the cable further as well. So let's go ahead and replace the HDMI port on this and give this board a decent clean. Hopefully we're going to have a working Xbox One S. That will get us off to a really good start. here we have the final product of the port itself. On the back you can see, actually it's a little bit messy on the back, let's give it a quick clean. This is why I like using the drop method. As long as you heat it for long enough, the solder will go through to the other side as well. You can see here, look, on both the ground legs, it's gone through. Same story at the front as well. And look at the finish that we get on the pins. I will check them. Every single one looks to be in great condition. Oh, except for me scratching away at the pads. Yep. Every single one absolutely solid and a very clean job as well. Let's see if it works first, then I'll go ahead with the clean and reassemble. Right, so I'm just putting the power in. I've got a fan spin, which is always good news. Plug the HDMI cable in as well. We get power, which is always a result. Do we get a display on the monitor? Here we go. Elgato, show me some love, please. Okay, there we go. All right, it looks to be in, I believe, like 480p at the moment, but we can get that changed. It turns on. That's wicked. That's a result. Good stuff. Okay, let's just go to TV and display options, and we have the option for 4K Ultra HD. My monitor doesn't support it. Let's change it to 1080p and just make sure that we get, yeah, there we go. Okay, oh, I've pressed keep and it's disappeared. Okay, good. Yeah, there we go. 60 Hertz, we have the option for 120 as well. Let's give it a quick clean, reassemble, and then we'll move on to Xbox number 2. Now, if I'm honest, I don't know how this is going to come across on camera, but the condition of the Xbox is a lot better now than what it was, especially, and I think most importantly, on the inside of the console. You can make the outside look amazing, but if the inside doesn't have the correct amount of thermal paste, or any thermal paste for that matter, or it's blocking up the power supply, that gives a risk of the console overheating and eventually just not working. So it's super important that you clean stuff on the inside of these consoles, otherwise it's just not going to work. Disk drive works. You can see here Rainbow Six Siege is installing. Wi-Fi also works. I've also just had confirmation from the seller that they're willing to give me back £10 for the purchase. So essentially we bought this Xbox One S for £40 rather than the £50 that was advertised. Should help with our profit margin. But this Xbox is now already working, good to sell. So let's move on to Xbox number 2. And here we have the Xbox Series S. Condition-wise, this is very, very good. There is a minor mark here, and that might have even been my glove. We've got a tiny mark on the back as well, but everything is looking pretty good with this console. You might not be able to see the warranty sticker is here, and it looks like it's intact, as well as this one over here, sorry. But let's go over to the microscope and just check out this HDMI. All right, here we are. You can see that it's over this end, that the port is absolutely messed up. The clasp as well is broken, so I'm not, again, gonna put a HDMI lead in this because it's just not gonna work. So let's start taking this console apart. The Xbox Series S is in fact my favorite console to take apart. It's just very easy. And here it is. Honestly, I just love the console itself. It's amazing. I know it's only digital, so it doesn't have a disk drive, but I mean, for what you want, it's incredible. Like, it's so small, convenient. All in all, I think I honestly prefer the Xbox Series S to the Xbox Series X. Just for size, it's just so easy. I've just realized as well that I didn't actually test to see if it works, which I should have, in terms of power on, like I did with the first Xbox, but it is what it is. With the Xbox Series X, you've got a shroud that covers this bit as well, which is a bit of a pain to get off this. You just take off the X clamp and you're in. I like to remove the SSD because we're going to be applying quite a bit of heat to get the HDMI port off. It always makes sense to remove the SSD. Now, the only thing I will say is that these HDMI ports are a little bit trickier to get off and to install. It would be quite hard to get a soldering iron on those pins where the port is, and that's because of the fact the metal shroud is quite close to the actual pin, so it would make it really difficult to get an iron up under there. But as you guys know, I like to use the method which is called the drop method, and exactly what you have just seen me do on the Xbox One S, which is where we turn the board over. I'm gonna try and apply some leaded solder just to these pins. Doesn't have to be insanely accurate, and then I'll do the exact same here. These boards are really thick, so it takes a very long time for the port to drop off. That's why it's recommended to use leaded solder instead of the unleaded solder that's on the board. And then we're simply just going to drop on a new HDMI port. If needs be, I will touch up the pins as best I can after the port is on, but it should be fairly straightforward, he says. Whenever I say that, something always goes wrong, so I take back that statement. Wish me luck. here we have the actual port on, and it's looking all good. I'm just going to test to make sure that we do have solid pins. Let's just check. Yep, so good so far, which is always good news. Yeah, nice. Every single one is solid. And again, back of the port a little bit fluxy, so we just give it a nice clean, but looking very, very strong, which is the important thing. Okay, let's give this a test outside the housing. It's back together as much as it's needed to be in order to test, which isn't a lot. Again, I didn't test this to make sure that we had power, so I'm really hoping that we do. That goes in, here we go. I heard a crackle, so that's good news. Do we get power? We do. It was a bit late to the party. The light came before the noise, but we get fan spin. That's good. Do we get anything on our game scene? Yeah, let's go. Okay. And it looks to be the correct resolution, but I will confirm in a sec. Oh, it's been factory reset. Okay, I wasn't expecting that. Usually when you have like a display issue with a console, they leave the profile on because they're unable to reset the console because it doesn't display. It's very possible that they were able to temporarily get an image and wanted to reset it before they sold it. That's a possibility. Let's go to the settings and just check the display. We have 4K as an option, 1080p and 120Hz refresh rate. Wicked. That is good. Okay, there's not much tidying to do with this one, and I've already put thermal paste on it because I've put it semi back together. I'll reassemble this and then we can hopefully look at our profits today. I can't believe I'm saying profits today twice in a row. Okay, both consoles are now back together and working exactly as they should. So Xbox Series S, I've put console only, but I mean, most of them have come up with a controller. I can't believe it. £130, £135 with a controller, £140 with a controller, £150 with a controller. I thought it would be worth more. You've got an Xbox One S here that's gone for £130 with a controller. That's an Xbox One S, not an Xbox Series S. 165 controller, 150 on its own, 140 on its own. Prices are a bit all over the place, so I'm going to go £140 for the Xbox Series S on its own. 500GB Xbox One S, £60, 77, 70, 60. We'll go in the middle for that and we'll call it 65. So we paid 100 for the Xbox Series S and we paid 50 originally for the Xbox One S. However, I managed to get £10 off, so 140 for both consoles. So we put in our cost, £140. Parts, you're looking at 2 HDMI ports. I'll be fair and I'll say £4 for both, I think. So it puts our profit at the moment of minus £144. And our sale price, like I said, so if we go 140 plus the 65, so it's £205. Our profit today is a nice £54.85p. I say it's nice, but I honestly expected it to be higher because we had the Xbox Series S. Nonetheless, a profit is a profit, and I'm extremely happy that we didn't lose any money in today's video, unlike previous weeks. Speaking of previous weeks, if you do want to check out any other videos relating to this sort of content, feel free to click on this one here to find out if I make a profit or if I make a loss. Thank you so much for watching this video. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.